none of you would just be, that's just recording this. So now what we're going to do is using the side, we're using your pencil, all right? Using the pencil, use the side of the pencil. Just going to gently draw an arc line to the edge, kind of like 2 o'clock as a guide, right? We're all going to do this differently. It's all going to land somewhere different, but I'm going to say shoot for 2 o'clock area. And now we're going to draw another one, kind of like 4 o'clock. And now you can always turn your tile in a more comfortable position, like for example, like this, but I'm just to show you where the point that I'm trying to get to is kind of like that. So it might have landed more 5 o'clock. I was shooting for 4. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters in Zentangle. So if you ever have a question, just know the answer is it doesn't matter or whatever you want. That's the answer. And that's true. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to notice. All right. And now we're going to go to 8 o'clock. And I'm just going to turn. Actually, it really doesn't matter. I think I'm making it too complicated. Just draw another line like that and like that. Really doesn't matter. We're drawing arc lines, making 4 sections, and these sections do not have to equal. They don't have to be the same size. It really doesn't matter. So this is an intuitive art. So even though I have something planned, and I'll give you a quick peek, because I like to, we let go of the outcome. So I usually don't like to show you what we're doing, but I'll give you a real quick peek just to get you excited. Okay, there we go. So, all right, so we're going to start with, you can put down your pencil now and pick up your pen. And this is what Rick and Maria recommend, the 01 Zen micron. It's these are very delicate, so very light touch, or else they can break. So, yeah, okay. And what's nice about, now we're going to draw kind of like a grid. So I want you to kind of come down maybe about a 3/4 of an inch or a 1/2 an inch and do another, you don't need to leave that much space. I didn't mean to leave that much space, but it's okay. Doesn't matter. Whatever the pen does, let the pen be Zen. So we're going to draw kind of like a few lines, thinking like, almost like a big grid. Doesn't matter how many, but we want a good amount of space. But it doesn't really matter. Everything I say is a suggestion, but if you do something totally different, it's okay. And now we're going to draw lines the other way. So I'm going to kind of turn my tile, and I'm going to kind of mimic this line, doing the same thing, creating these squares or rectangles to kind of create this grid. So some of you may, again, this size, we all have a different size here. So you can have as many lines as you want, but don't think too much. We're just getting our foundation down for this pattern. So I'm teaching you 4 patterns tonight. And what we did with the pencil was called a string. And we drew that string in pencil because the pencil is going to disappear. And it gives us a section because we don't want to have to think about anything. So we know we're only working in this section. With that said, at any time, if you go over the line, it's okay. It's okay to go over the lines in Zentangle. So let's start with doing an arc shape from point to point on each section. I'm going to zoom in a little. So we're going to do a little arc. So point to point on that left side of each square or rectangle or whatever it is that you've got. And it's just kind of like a rice shape, we call that little arc. Now we're going to do that on all of the lines. And I want you to really slow it down, breathe, and focus on each stroke as if each stroke is deliberate. You're giving each stroke its undivided attention, point to point, light grip or not too tight. Pressing down very lightly, not too tight, not too hard, and relaxing. Breathing in and out with each stroke, slowing down. Nice and slow. And we're going to continue doing this on all sections. So we've got this line, this bottom line. So I'm going to turn my tile. Always can turn your tile anytime you want. And actually, you know what? Sorry. Go back to where we were. We're going to do the other side, right? The other side. So this is what we're going to do on all of the lines. Now, when you get to the edge here, I'm just going to keep it one-sided so that I could keep the next section. So it's just so, but all the other lines that are not on the edge, just both sides. And I'm going to put some music on. Doesn't matter how big or how small these petals are, these arcs. Just focus on each stroke, letting go of what it looks like. We are in a meditation. Reminding you the idea is to go nice and slow. We're not used to that. So go as slow as you can. If you finish before we move on, just relax. If you want, you can draw on your other tile. Or just close your eyes. So the next step to this pattern, and if you're not ready, it's okay, that's good. Just stop and continue with us, and then you can go back to what you're doing at any time. Some of you will go home with this to finish at home later, but that's okay. That's great, actually. So we're going to now start to put a design inside each of these like diamonds. So I'm going to start, now we'll just watch me for a moment. I'm going to start to aura one line. When aura is just tracing the exact, the line we just drew. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to aura 3 sides. And then when I aura the 4th side, and it doesn't matter where you start, I'm not going to close it up. I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to continue going in, auraing. And you can do that as whatever will fit, however many layers will fit in there. And I'll do it again. So you can start auraing one arc, then the next, nice and slow. Sometimes what helps me, while I'm drawing, I might go slow motion. And we're just going to keep going in, auraing, until we want to stop. You can do that in all of the diamonds. And if your inner artist wants to do something else, that's okay. Do whatever you want. Slow it down a little bit. How slow can you draw? So for those of you who would like, I'm going to show you something you can do with this pattern. And so these little corners, I'm going to put a little weight on them. We call that rounding. So I'm going to give this little roundish arc and then color that in just in the corners to give it a little drama. You can do that on all of them, some of them, none of them. Just a little arc cornering off those points, edges. If they're really small, you can just move your pen back and forth like a little roundish shape like that. Even just putting a little dot there is fine. And take a look to see the difference of how you just made that a little bit more dramatic. This is just on those inner auras that we just did. Although it doesn't matter. If you want to do it somewhere else, that's okay. There is no wrong in Zentangle. And just a little tip, when I color in, I'm barely touching my paper. These are new pens, brand new, should have a lot of ink. I remember what I was going to say. Well, one of the things I was going to say. Keep tangling, we're still in Zen. Every now and then I'll bring a little info in. But these pens were chosen by Rick and Maria because they are archival Prisma pens, so they won't bleed, they won't dry out. Like, well, the pens will dry out, but the once you draw on your tiles and this paper, they chose this paper, it will last forever. Well, they say 100 years, but they won't fade, they won't bleed. Okay, remember what I was going to say about my doodle art? We were talking about, again, we're still in meditation to keep drawing. We were talking about not looking like anything and why I love Zentangle. You know, when I was young, my goal was to be a fabric designer. I wanted to take my wonderful art and design fabrics with all my little doodle arts and all my colors. So I took an art class because I wanted to get into an art school, and I couldn't even draw a face. It looked like a big smiley face. It was a self-portrait. They said, first day of class, do a self-portrait, and mine looked like a big smiley face, and I worked really with a comb over, and I looked really, really hard on it. So I'm someone who could not draw a thing. I can't draw a sailboat, I can't draw a doggy, or whatever. So, of course, I wouldn't be able to get into an art school. And so with Zentangle, it's not supposed to look like anything. And Rick and Maria say everybody is an artist. So if you weren't an artist before tonight, you are now. And whenever you put your pens down, please cap them when you're not using them because they can dry out. And they say to store them horizontally, even though in Michael's, they're always vertical, but and on those doors, but that's what they say, they'll last longer that one. Now, if you want, you can trace over that pencil. I'm going to trace over my pencil, the one that's outlining this pattern that we just did. So these two sides. So with my pen, I'm tracing over that pencil. You don't have to, but if you want to, it's fun to trace over things. And there are no erasers in Zentangle because Zentangle is a metaphor for life. We don't have erasers in life because anything goes, just keep moving on. It's hot. Ask Patrice. Some people are hot. Is it possible to get it cooler in here? Poor ladies feel like, I know the feeling. So when you're done with this, I'd like you to just cap your pens and put them down and shake out your wrists, move your shoulders. We're still in meditation, so just move your body a little bit because don't want you walking out of here hunched over. And I'll just check in. How you doing so far? Nobody's running out the door, so that's I just saw her face. Oh my God. Now, one of the reasons we let go of the outcome is because what your tile looks like right now is not what it's going to look like when we're done. I promise you that. So, gotta let it go. And Zentangle has a very healing art method. It's been known to save lives, really. Rick and Maria have a talk out where they tell a story about how Zentangle actually saved someone's life. I think because they were ready to end it all, and then somebody said, come to a Zentangle class with me, and they had another will to live. It's all over the world. It's been known to help with depression, with emotional trauma. I've had people come up to me and say, this is just what I needed. It helped. My husband's in hospice. My daughter is just diagnosed with whatever it was. This has been very helpful. For me, it helps me to calm down. If I'm just like too anxious and I can't sit and do a meditation, video or class, but I'm doing something, and Zentangle helps me to calm down immediately. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another pattern. We're going to be doing more with this later. We got to still use this thing. Woohoo! What are we going to do with this? So now let's move on. I'm going to choose. Let's stop this. So I'm going to ask you to. We'll do, I was going to do this one, but let's keep it simple. We'll just go with the next one, going in clockwise. So this next section, and I'm going to draw anywhere in this section at all. I'm going to go a little bit close to the edge. Zoom in a little bit. And we're going to draw kind of like a petal, just kind of this oval shape, any way you like, type of shape. kind of like a petal. But it doesn't matter, oval. So it's a little bit narrower, it's pointy on the bottom, round on top, but however you do it is fine. And then let's turn our tile and do that again. From that same center point. Turn our tile and do that again. Each one can be a different size, doesn't matter. Don't even think about it. Just draw the petal. Doesn't matter how big or how small. And then see if you can fit one or two more in there. And now we're going to do that again. Now we're going to do a lot more with these petals, but I want to, first we're going to fill this whole, oh, God bless you. First, we're going to fill this section up with what we just did. Yeah, bless you. Zentangle is all about doing the same stroke over and over. So what we're going to do is do another one, and it can be touching or not. So if I start like maybe right about there, and I'll just do another one. I'm kind of doing it upside down now. But I'm doing it, I want mine to touch a little bit, almost like kissing petals, but they don't have to, so we're doing the same thing where one of the petals is kind of touching one of the petals from the previous, we'll call it a flower, but we don't like to do that because it's not supposed to look like anything. If I say a flower, oh, it has to look like a flower. No, it doesn't. But just for metaphorically, or if that's even correct, and it could be as many petals as you want. 4 or 5 is good. But if you can only do 3, that's all right too. Whatever you want to do. These are all suggestions. So this whole section we want to fill up doing that any way you want. Turn your tile, have fun with it. Just draw that. You can make it bigger, smaller. Just have fun getting these almost like daisies. I don't know. Just these different. This one might only be 3. I'm going to just do 3 this time because that's a big one. Or I might fit one like going behind. It looks like it's going to go behind something. See how many you can fit in. Doesn't matter. 2, 3, 4. You could do a smaller one. I might get a little one right in here. It's okay to go over the lines, just as long as you leave enough room for your next patterns. Or if you don't care and you want to keep going, go ahead. It's all right. So I'm going to show you the next step. Even if you're not done, that's okay. But I want to show you the next 2 steps to this that you're going to do in every petal. Very easy. So on the top of each petal, which is kind of right here, you're going to put a little, almost like a triangle. So I like to curve my edges. So these were curved. I'll do that again on this one. So I'm going curving in and out. But if you want to do a different shape, you can. This is just what I'm doing tonight. You can do this pattern. You could do a different shape on each petal if you want. If you feel like you want to just do an arc or a diamond, whatever you want to do. But this is what. And I say that only, don't think about it. Just if your desire, if your inner artist comes up and says, hey, why don't you do this instead? You don't want to shut her out. That's all. Otherwise, just focus on each stroke, not thinking about a thing, breathing in and out. And I'm going to show you the 2 next steps so that when you're ready, you can go ahead with it. So I can put the music back on and we can really relax into this. So the 2 next steps, because they're so easy, we're just going to color in those triangles. And again, and you can do little circular motions. I find that helps color that in, barely touching the paper. And then on these, and I'll do that with all of them. You don't have to. You might decide to put in stripes or orbs. When I say orbs, those are Zentangle language with, you know what, never mind. We're going to do orbs in a little while, and then I'll explain it. And then from the center of each one of these flowers, or what you want to call them, I'm doing little flicks, little lines, and I'm flicking by starting and then flicking off the paper. So you can do 2, 3, 1, just to give it a little bit of oomph there. And that's it for this part of the pattern. Then we'll do something later in the background. So just relax, nice and slow. See if you can draw slower than you did before. Really take your time. The goal is not to finish. The goal is to draw slow and get the benefits of meditation by focusing on each stroke that you draw, letting go of all your thoughts, breathing in and out. And when you're done with that, we're going to aura each petal as so. So I'm drawing very close, and I'm just going to give this an outline. We just call this auraing. You can aura any way you like. There is no perfection in Zentangle. So if you have a shaky hand like I do, or you can't see, there's no, you can see this one is smaller than that side. That's what Zentangle. Rick says, Rick Roberts, Maria Thomas, he says there's no character in straight lines and perfection. So there's anything can be wobbly, shaky, there are lots of imperfections. That's what makes it art. And if you like, you can add some little dots in the middle here, going from the flip to the point. And one last thing you can do, and this is really for the people who are ready to move on. If you're still drawing, keep doing what you're doing. These are extra things you can add in later or do if you'd like. So I'm going to put in some lines in these auras, and they can be straight or curved. I might put a little slight curve. I'm just going to fill up this aura with these stripes or lines, straight or curved, or both. Doesn't matter. Let the pen be zen. There's one more thing I'm gonna suggest for this section, this pattern. And again, everything's always optional, or wanna do something else, but just, I'm gonna show you what I had done. And I'm a little hesitant to share this, but only because it might take a long time, but we could start it and then we're gonna start the other two patterns and then you can always go back to it or finish it at home. But if you look at this pattern here, I've got all these orbs in the background. That's what the orbs are. And they can be all different sizes, which I will show you what I mean. So in the background, we can draw these orbs are called imperfect circles. That's why we call them orbs. When we say circles, you think perfect circle, right? That's what Rick and Maria say. So I like to have them all different sizes. So they're touching. So I'm drawing right along the edge of the petals and then I touch, kind of like squeezing in balloons. And it could be all the same size, different sizes, or just let the pen do whatever it wants to do. Drawing in these orbs. Just filling up the background. You could do the whole thing or sporadically, maybe just little areas. Or you can leave it and decide later if you want to do anything in there. All right, so I'd like you to take a moment, cap your pens, shake out our wrists again, move our bodies. If you need to stretch, if you need to stand up and stretch, you may do that. Just a little body break before we continue. Lean back in your chair. I bet you're not hot anymore. You're dying to say something to your neighbor, go ahead. I'll let you take a little mini verbal break before we resume, and then we're gonna open up in a few minutes anyways. you need to use the restroom, a few people went, so you can do that. Don't feel like you're gonna miss something. I know that. So while we're since we're taking like a little mini break, can I answer any questions for anybody, or anybody want to share anything? Okay, question and then you. Yep. Roseanne.
When you're doing your fill-ins, like those larger petals, I mean, not now, but at home, people use a thicker pen than an O1.
That's a great question. So the question was, when you're doing the coloring in, do you use a thicker pen? Yes. Yes and no. Like today, it worked fine. Sometimes I really enjoy this pen, but these pens come in all different sizes. And there are other pens out there that are similar that you can use. But there's the one that we use a lot. It's called the graphic one, or 05 or 08.
Yeah.
Works well for that. So you're familiar with it, sounds like, yeah.
Like with these pens.
But it, yeah. So so if you're looking to continue doing this, you will want to get a thicker pen. Graphic one or 05 or 08 is good. Yes.
Do you always draw with the pen or there is no mistake.
Hello, thank you. Yes, there are no mistakes. So, you know, no erasing, right? And somebody once said, "I'm going to draw until I like it." I'll keep drawing until I like it. And I believe, just like in life, everything happens the way it's supposed to, right? So have you ever let go of the outcome, and you know, maybe you were trying to solve a problem, or something was going beyond your control, and you were like, I'm just going to let it go, whatever will be, and then the best solution comes. That to me is what Zentangle is. We just let go, and whatever we drew, we were meant to draw. Again, you're not meant to draw I just sat down and created a design for tonight, and all of you could do the same thing. So these are all suggestions, and there are no mistakes in Zentangle. It's on their website in big letters. Other questions before we resume? Or comments? Yeah, and feel free to get a snack, a drink. Of course, it's okay to eat while we're doing this. God, it did get cold. And I'm always hot. Always hot. You're... Well, I'm glad. That's so funny because that's usually me. I'm usually the one that's always hot. Okay, so do we have most people back? I don't want to. We'll fill them in. The other two patterns should go back a little quicker because then we still have to do our shading. So, and then there'll be opportunity for more questions as well if people want. So let's get back into our Zen. And we're going to work on the next two patterns, of course, one at a time. So let's work on the next pattern here. And this is going to be a little different. Well, each pattern is different, of course. So we're going to create triangles. We're going to fill up this whole section with triangles. I'll give you a sneak peek of what we're doing. So we're doing this section here, not in this. I've reversed these two, so don't think, oh, I should be over here. We're doing this section here. So the next one. And the way we start this pattern is we're going to create triangles. And it doesn't matter how big or how small, just as long as we create a triangle off of the other one. And again, they could be all different sizes. Still go nice and relaxed, focusing on each stroke, enjoying the process of drawing triangles any way you like. Filling up this section. So you didn't miss much, but just drawing triangles in the section that off of another one. So just start drawing one triangle and then another triangle off of that. Doesn't matter how big, how small, it'll be all different. Enough to put something inside of it. And if you want, you can trace along that pencil line if you want to. You can always go back to your orbs or somewhere else in the, anytime, you can always go back to another part of the tile. So the next part, and it's okay if you're not ready, it's gonna be very easy. We're just gonna put a dot in the center of each triangle. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly centered, it's just a dot so we know where that center is when we draw our line. So focusing on that dot, giving it our undivided attention, nice and relaxed, just a nice dot. And when you're done with that, we're just gonna draw a line from that dot to each corner or vice versa. So whatever's more comfortable. So just from each corner of each triangle, we're drawing a line to that dot. Very, very easy. How did that happen? That's my mother FaceTiming me. I don't know. I had it on silent. I don't know who did that.
Getting a pink slip.
I don't know how it got on. Right, I'm gonna move on to the next pattern, and I'm glad most of you are still drawing. That's great. We're just gonna start the next pattern. Again, you can always go back to this at any time. Zentangle goes by very fast, even when I do full day programs, and it's just amazing how fast it goes by. So now we're in our last section and we're gonna do a grid again, kind of like how we started. So just maybe pick one line and it can be either curved or straight. I'm gonna do a slight curve. So think of, a grid like a checkerboard. Just a couple lines. And then turning that tile, going the other way, trying to get like a square shape. Or, it might end up being a rectangle, that's okay. Some might be different. I have a rectangle here, a square there, it doesn't matter. Just drawing some lines to have like a nice big grid. And now, in each one of these blocks, well, I'll give you, sorry, I'm going too fast. We're okay. All right, so in each box, we're going to squish in an orb, like a balloon. And the way we do that is we're gonna kind of curve, sorry, let me zoom in a little bit. Curve the corners, trace along the edge, curve the corners, trace along the edge, tracing and curving. So kind of getting an orb in there. Now, if you prefer, you could just kind of corner off the corners like that. So it looks the same. So it's really, Zen is all about being in the present moment. What feels good? Like I love tracing along that. But if you enjoyed, and I also enjoy, cornering off too, but it's just whatever feels good to you. The next step to this pattern is color in these diamonds. And if yours don't look like diamonds, that's okay. This is like the background space. And again, little circular motions is good, barely touching the paper. Little pressure, maybe. All right, I'm gonna show you, the last part of this pattern. And remember those flicks we did over here? We're gonna do them here. So what's great about this, if you can find a group of 4, so here's a group of 4 right here. This would be the center. And from that center, I'm just gonna do a flick. These little flicks make this whole pattern. It changes the whole pattern. It's one of my favorites. I love it. And that's all it is. So do that on each one. It's okay if it overlaps. Like you could take this next 4 and still do it. It's okay if they have, yeah, it's okay. Actually, it's really just like at each corner. You can do the bottom ones too if you want. Another moment and finish up the tangling part. We're gonna start to shade soon. That's gonna be really taking this tile to a whole new level. So if you have any more orbs to fill in or anything at all, just go ahead and do that, or just take a little body break just for about another minute. And then we're going to do some shading. And we'll start to kind of, we'll still be in our meditation, but halfway through the shading, we'll start to come out of that where I can start to answer questions as we're shading. And if you're are interested, I am doing a online, I do a lot of Zoom classes. And next Wednesday night, I'm starting Evening Tangle. It's only gonna be an hour. And it's on Zoom, and it's designed to give you a good night's sleep. They are recorded, so if you can't make it, you can get the recording and do it on your own. It's gonna be very nice and simple, and it's all on my website, and I'll talk about that later as well. Also, there are some clubs in the villages. Again, I had keep tangling as I'm talking. As you know, I mentioned earlier,